Hello, everyone. Welcome to the State of the State. I'm R.C. Williams.
And I'm Juliana Ormond.
It's a blessing to have you guys to talk about everything that's going on, why we do what we do, where we've been, what we've done, and where we're going. It's been an incredible year.
It's been an exciting year, hasn't it?
Yeah, the last year. So we're excited to share with you guys, and then to also talk to you about what's coming and how you can support us. This is an exciting time, and it's really a fun freestyle way for you to get to know a bit more about why we do what we do, and for us to share with you some of what's happened.
I love for them to get to know who we are too.
Well, you know
That's
what?
really important.
In the State of the State, let's start at the start.
Excellent.
All right. So our mission is really a modern business declaration of independence. So this is something that we wrote a while ago, and we want to share it with you. The way that things have gone, just generally speaking, this isn't a political thing or anything else, we felt a calling to do even more. We had set this foundation, but we knew that there was more to be done. And this business declaration really came from our heart.
Well, I know that my grandparents all came here from Europe.
Yeah.
And, the country that they came to is not the country we're living in today.
Yeah.
So I've been watching the country deteriorate over the last 50 years. And I'm like, you know what can we do about what we're looking at? This is our community. These are our people.
And that was part of the origin, really, of the Give Foundation, which we'll get to in a second. I'd actually like to read a portion of this for the audience. You guys can see it on the screen, but it's worth, I think it's certainly worth reading. 246 years after the declaration that would forever change the world, we revisit those sacred words that sparked the birth of a nation that shines as the beacon of freedom, with a renewed passion to make clear that the blessings as a result of our founding ideals are properly understood, put to use, and never lost by future generations. If that doesn't sum up how we feel in a nutshell, and I'm sure how many people feel today, I don't know what does.
Well, it's our responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Through a path of apathy, greed, and mismanagement, our governmental and economic systems of operation have created an environment that appears to be rendering aid in order to speed its own demise.
Especially recently.
Saying that, like when we wrote this, saying that out loud, and then saying, wow, we're really going to say this out loud, was a big step. Because throughout everything that we do with the lab and with SHERLOC and with the Give Foundation, a lot of times we're the voice for the people that don't have a voice.
Right. That's right.
And when we did this, it felt like that's what we were.
We're not the only ones talking about it, right?
Exactly.
This is how people felt, and we just put words, we languaged it for them.
Yeah, we really did. Let's do one more. Let's do one more paragraph here. So, these acts of economic manipulation, destabilization of national strength, and the picking of winners and losers in business through crony capitalism have crippled entrepreneurship and small business, threatening the very fabric that provides 99% of the jobs in our country. This business declaration, as we said before, means a lot, and we believe that we've given voice for people, but understanding the mission here, we're going to get to the story in a second, but understanding the mission really lets you know where we're going. We're really excited to share the future part. I don't want to jump too far ahead. So let's get to the story. And Juliana, for me, I think what's interesting about us and when we met is that before we even talked about a business, right? We talked about how we would give back. And that's really the story of the Give Foundation.
So I remember the day that you said to me, we need to have a name of a company to merge our companies together. And you said to me, what do you think about the name, the Give Company? And I was like, that's so interesting. So when it was time for us to start really thinking about, how do we give back? How do we, make our mark on the world? The Give Foundation was the perfect answer for that.
Yeah. And once we made that declaration and we had a foundation, it really was an embodiment of our stories, our personal stories, and things that were there and things that were missing. And I'm going to come back around in a second, but really our first mission was to wrap a business around a creative young person, to protect them and to protect their intellectual property, to make sure they benefited. But your background as a child, I think, really speaks to why we decided to start right there.
So I remember the day I was sitting out on my deck and I said to myself, I was reading a meme and it said something like, somebody somewhere should do something, right? And I said, I'm somebody. I remember walking in and looking at you and going, if we don't do something about our country, we're not going to be able to help the kids.
Right.
Right. So, our declaration is that, we're trying to help our country. In the meanwhile, God is so amazing. He's allowed us to actually wrap that business around a couple of kids and help them to become entrepreneurs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that part one, once we got it, we said, okay, what happens if we actually solve the problems? Because we know we can do it now. Right? How does the world change if we actually solve the problems?
So when I look at the lab and what we're doing, it's all about empowerment.
Yeah.
Somebody once said to me, I like to build wealth into people's lives. And that just stuck with me.
We use that as part of our description of the Give Foundation. It was amazing to me that when we talked about what was next, we said, well, how can we touch 1 billion people in this lifetime? Right. And we always say, you got to launch a lot of ships.
Yes, you do.
To reach 1 billion people. But
yes,
that was powerful declaration.
Absolutely. And, me as a kid, I wanted some place where I can have somebody look at me and go, you're a wonderful ship. I want to launch you. You know, I see who you are. And, I just needed that extra help to get launched and doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
So now we get to do that for the kids, huh?
It's a blessing. We talk candidly, right? Anybody that knows us knows that this is how we generally are when we talk. Passionately about these things. So once we had that foundation, the next step for us was actually the creation of SHERLOC.
That's right.
Market research, competitive intelligence was something that we both did before we even met each other. And when we got together, we said, how can we make this work for businesses or for industries or for people who are in need, right? What can we provide to help people make the right decisions, have an advantage, and do those things? And that turned into this, hey, we should create some technology to help support this as well.
So here's my confession to the world. Ready? I didn't understand this thing called technology. That was your background, right? So when he's trying to explain what technology was, it really hurt my brain, let me tell you. But then you started talking about using my degree of forensic psychology, and you built a technology around that, and my brain went, what are you doing? But that competitive intelligence technology parable, is the reason why we're standing where we are, why we opened up the lab and are able to do what we do, because it just gave us the information we needed to have.
So as we were building SHERLOC, we happened to encounter 1 million cups. Go ahead, because wow.
So a friend of ours, I kept telling him, I need to find like-minded people. And he said to me, go to 1 million cups. And I'm like, what incarnations is that? He goes, Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., Rollins College, just go. I said, okay. So we go, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden there's Rupert, and he's got his microphone, and he's like, my name is Rupert, this is 1 million cups. And I'm going to bring up the first speaker. The first speaker was a business. And just like Shark Tank, came up and talked for 6 minutes, and the audience got to question for 15 minutes. And it was amazing. And I remember looking at you when it was over, and I just poked you. And I said, you're up. And he literally was like, what do you mean I'm up? And I'm like, he was asking for a new facilitator.
Yeah.
And I said, so if we're a business, if we're in technology, and we're doing all these different things, and we need like-minded people around us so that, they can help us and we can help them. We just needed to find our people. So that was March. By August, gosh, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's 2017.
Wow. By August, we took over. We grew the organization, our chapter, from 25 people to 75 people. And then by
every week,
we loved it. And then by December of 2019, we had really grown. I was like, we need a place. Should I go into the next?
Yes, go ahead. Let me do this for you. There we go.
So I'm sitting on stage, right? I'm looking at everybody going, we need a place where we can do, commerce together, where we can teach each other, a place where we can do programs together. And I literally would say to them, Juliana, will get the space, right? And I'm like, but I'm not paying the rent. we're all paying the rent. And it's like,
Right.
how do we all pay the rent? Well, if we're all putting on programs, right? And if we're all doing things and teaching each other and putting on events and stuff like that, by default, the rent gets paid. But I wanted a space because I love Rollins College, but we didn't have a place where we could all meet and do events and do things together.
Right.
So a week before COVID, John showed us this location, and literally Alan looked at me and said, "Juliana, what would you do at this location?" And of course, I'm a creative, so I was like, "Oh my God, all these things that I could do with the place." So we signed the lease the week before COVID, and yeah, and by the grace of God, he's done a lot of things in our world with our companies and us having to learn and meeting the right people and
they often say that through the toughest times, right? It's like how you form a diamond, right? Time and pressure creates a diamond. Going through so much with the Lab Orlando and everything that we did and some of what happened behind the scenes, and just to see it grow, like it wasn't even supposed to be a separate business. And we came up with the business plan thanks in large part to COVID and understanding the Opportunity Zone program that the federal government put together to get investment dollars into underserved communities. We're like, there's an entire business model to have these labs, which are really business and community resource hubs throughout the country, because there are 8,700 opportunity zones in the United States.
Listen, for all the people that come in here, the first thing they say is, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had a place like this to hang out, when I was a teenager, And I'm just, I love everything that we've done with the lab. That's just my heartbeat.
Yeah. While this may not feel like a traditional story, it certainly is not. I think you can see where the dots connect here. And with our declaration, we talk about that service to people.
That's right.
And service to country. And just our backstory, I think you see how we ultimately came up with that declaration. So let's go ahead and jump into what's happening with the lab, right? Because I think our theme is right there.
Empowering community participation.
Yeah. So many great things have happened. We wanted to highlight a couple, and then we're going to do a couple of extra towards the end of the state of the state. But I thought it would be a good idea to start, Juliana, and this is almost like interview style, right?
Cool.
Because the lab is your muse and this is your design, and there's so much energy and spirit and love put into this that I want you to walk us all through. Okay. So one of the things that we picked up over the last year is the youth programs, and we've discovered, and this will be a recurring theme, entrepreneurship is the way. So these crazy circumstances, let me put these two up and you can kind of tell the story of how we got here.
So the city of Orlando, one of the ladies was walking by and she knocked on my door looking for wall crawl. And I looked at her, I'm like, "So what do you do?" And she was like, "Youth employment program, and we pay the kids and we're looking for businesses." And I said, "Oh my God." I'm like, "This is so exciting." I'm like, "So, I want to interview to be able to do this with the kids." So we started off probably 9 months ago.
Yeah.
We had 5 students that came. They were learning podcasting and DJing and how to put on events, and they were involved in community stuff. They came to a whole bunch of our meetings.
Yes.
They got to hear us in business meetings talking about, mergers and acquisitions, talking about cryptocurrency, talking about investment monies and stuff like that. And the kids were like, "I can't believe I get to be here." Anyway, back to the city of Orlando.
Yeah.
So I tracked them down. I had the kids for all of the school year. And then Career Source came along and was like, "Hey, we want to continue what the city of Orlando is doing. Would you like the kids during the summer?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You're going to give me more kids during the summer?" It was such a blessing. So we wound up with 7 teenagers, and they were all just absolutely amazing.
So I think through this process, because a couple of things happened while we were doing this. One of the things that we talked about, and you touched on it, with the kids being able to sit in with us, because we really immersed them into our meetings. They were a part of our business meetings and things like that. And what ended up happening is these, what we call positive collisions, right?
We've got a wonderful positive collision with Keith, which is his birthday today. So happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday, Keith Andes.
But he's been working with a whole bunch of the youth that used to hang out here. As a matter of fact, one of his main, mentees is Diane. and they met peers. So, I mean, just being able to connect these kids with the right mentors was my number one focus.
To me, when you're in an environment, the Lab Orlando is in the Paramore district of Orlando, historically underserved, heavy, predominantly Black population. Half the population lives under the poverty line. This really has been an opportunity desert, a place with no hope for years. And so, since we both understood that influences early in your life have a huge impact on the outcome of your life, we said, what if we're in a place where we can bring in people that the kids would never see in the normal course of their life, and then those people are able to pour into them.
That's right.
So the ultimate series of blessings happened where we had people who have been wealthy and are successful in life came and had the lab experience. Like Keith, someone who's super successful as a music producer. And just when young people are here, these people pour into these young people. Right. They take their phone number, they work with them after. Those positive collisions, when we change the environment or we change the influences, we change the environment. So the belief, if the lab is here, we're literally changing the environment from the heart, the soul, and the spirit out. And the kids take that home, and then they take it out to the community in general. And I believe we started to see that change.
I love it.
You know, I will say this, that entrepreneurship has certainly blossomed out of that.
So what's interesting is that when I started talking about doing a summer program, we had a side of a building. The owner said that we can paint the whole side of the building. It was perfectly gray, nice. And when I talked to the kids when they first got here, and I'm like, look, you know, I've got this wonderful project. This is what we're going to do. And they all looked at me like, oh. And I'm like, what? And they're all like, we want to learn about business and finance. And I'm like, oh, yeah? So let's do that. And I'm like, okay, so if you want to learn business and finance, the first thing I need to do is know you. So I'll go into that after, but.
Yeah. And so all of that happening, we knew we'd be able to duplicate it because we created systems.
That's right.
For when kids come into the programs, and really people from the community for that matter, that come into these programs, there's already a system in place for them to execute.
That's right.
It's, again, step one of an amazing experience. Another one that happened for us was music and tech. And so this story with Natalie, who's an instructor at Full Sail, is amazing. Go ahead. You can.
So Natalie came, somebody invited her to come one day, and she's like, you know, I'm a teacher at Full Sail, and I'm like, fantastic. She was like, I would love to do a program called Loud Ladies. And I'm like, cool. She was like, you know, the ladies sometimes have a little bit of a hard time being able to do what they need to do at Full Sail, so we want to take a Sunday. And she's been doing that here for, almost as long as the kids have been here, if not longer, right?
Yeah, she's probably been here right close to a year.
Yeah, wow. Oh, I can't believe time goes by so fast. So anyway, so she comes almost every single Sunday. Just love the community members that come in. When you come in, you'll see people recording, you'll see people writing, you'll see people rapping, you'll just see a whole bunch of stuff going on. So Sundays is a lot of fun at the lab.
And the Loud Ladies program has really taken off.
Yes.
Those young ladies are amazing that come in here. And now they're creating their own club series and everything.
Yeah.
Like they're a
whole business.
Yeah.
They had all their documentation and everything. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but again, I think that goes back to our favorite graphic there, which is the positive collisions, right? When you provide the soil, as you always say, the seed can grow.
That's right.
Fast.
That's right.
And blossom.
We just provide the opportunity.
Yeah. A quick aside, by the way, people saw this before, but the entrepreneurship bug popped up again because Natalie's engagement here actually inspired her to create her own business.
Yeah, literally, everyone who's come here has said to me, "Can you help me grow my company?" And I'm like, that's the whole point of the community participation. Like, come here, right? What can you do? How can we make money together? How can I empower you and help you grow, right?
Right.
Get your name and then help you grow your little wings and shoo.
Right.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, right?
It works. When you are a good community and business resource hub, you are the hub to get people to the point where they can do what they need to
That's
do.
Right. That's right.
Let's talk just one more because this one is relatively new. We've had community impact, but what's come to us recently, we believe, allows that inside to outside to really sprout. And that's the Orlando Union Rescue Mission.
So we had one of their employees came, and when he came in, he was like, God just led me here. I don't know why. And when I gave him the tour, he pulls out his phone. He shows me how he has a recording studio at his location. He makes me listen to a song that they had just recorded the day before of a gentleman who had gone through so much, and he was like literally rapping about his life history and how he had just gone out of jail and what was going on and stuff like that. And this gentleman named Justin, he was like, oh my gosh, can I help? Can I bring the people here? Can I do outreach? Can we do food stuff? Can we like help my community of people at the Orlando Union Rescue Mission? I'm like, absolutely. And he's like, he goes, this is like a dream come true for me, because we needed a place where we could do things with these people, help them get on their feet and do what they need to do.
So once again, the power of positive collisions leads to upward mobility.
Amen.
This goes back to something at the very core of the Give Foundation, though, that we ask ourselves, and we talk about this when we speak often. What would happen if you actually solved the problem instead of dancing around the problem? And this is nothing personal against any other group, because I think there are a lot of groups that are doing great work. I also think that there are a lot of groups who dance around the problem.
See, I want to get everybody to the point where they're so well that they can come back and help the next person.
Amen. Amen. Because really, that's how you touch 1 billion people. You launch those ships, and then they go off and launch other ships. It has been nothing short of amazing at the Lab Orlando. We'll come back to this as we talk about the future, because there's so many great components, and this work has spawned so much other work. So let's talk a little bit about SHERLOC. Right? So SHERLOC is a market research and technology company, empowers things like research and freedom, and building platforms where people aren't concerned about all the things that you might hear about today.
Like deplatforming?
Well, that's one of them.
Being suppressed,
and people not even understanding what that means.
That's true.
I sit on this side of this side, it would never happen to me. It's like you don't even know what's going to be wrong yet. Right? You don't know if what you're going to say or do is going to be wrong in somebody's eyes, and then they cut you off.
Right? Unperson you.
So we wanted to share a couple of things that have happened here that are very exciting. And, you know, with empowering research, through talking with people and these engagements, we actually came up with the parallel economies presentation. So parallel economies and the power of the nation state. As the world sits today, are you prepared? Do you understand what's going on? So this presentation literally rips from the headlines to talk to you about what's going on, so you understand who the players are, how the world works, and the things you need to be looking out for. And in this example, we actually break down the origin of words. This presentation spawned someone to ask us to do a presentation on the origin of words.
That's right.
We also talk about what a parallel economy is and how it's not this big, ugly boogeyman. It actually happens all the time.
Do you know, I think most people don't even know what a parallel economy means.
Yeah, and that's really why I put up the description here, because it's a natural evolution of people who want to work together to do something positive and want to have more control over the outcome.
Amen.
Most people don't realize the economy today, you have very little control over the outcome.
That's true.
Right? What if you could change that? And then when we talk about rip from the headlines, this is something that happened recently. Sri Lanka's economy collapsed for a number of reasons. But what we help people understand in looking at the headlines, the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka just came out and said it. But then when you look at why, because once you understand how organizations like the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the IMF, how they all work, then you understand why. This is a resource battle that's going on. And so we showed people that Sri Lanka produces some of the purest graphite in the world. And graphite is used in batteries, electric motors, the cores of nuclear reactors, all of the things that, as we do this recording, are now getting huge benefit from legislation that was just signed. So now you wonder why what's happening is happening. This is part of what we do. It is scary, but empowering this research goes back to our core.
Well, it's like, you know, there's 3 components of technology. There's the technology itself, there's the information this technology is giving you, and then the application of that information. That makes it real artificial intelligence. So great. So our technology is telling us all these things, but then what? Like, how do we use the information and what we've discovered to be able to go, hey, community, we're seeing X, Y, and Z, and we want to change it. So let me give you some inside information so we can empower each other to do what needs to get done as a community.
Right. And we talk about this when we do our presentations on NFTs, crypto, and everything. We say there's a difference between education and understanding, and you actually need both.
Yeah.
We always joke with people, we bet a lot of you are educated on cryptocurrency, but you didn't understand it,
Right.
which is part of the reason why you're here.
Right.
Market research, the education, competitive intelligence, the understanding.
Exactly.
One of the core tenets of SHERLOC. So the other one here is empowering freedom. And so the parallel economies presentation, we did this work and we met these incredible guys from around the country. And this presentation has actually turned into a tour. We just did Pittsburgh and Philadelphia about a month and a half ago. And it's amazing to see people as they get on the train with the parallel economy and they understand opportunity and they understand how to put themselves in a position to better control the outcomes of the things that matter to them the most. I mean, so that part grew, and then it finally got us off our duff to do our podcast.
Well, you know, my girlfriend said to me, she goes, Juliana, you need to do the podcast. You need to do lives. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because I talk to you, so I know what's going on.
Yep.
But everybody else wants to know what's going on, like behind the scenes, or what do we need to know? Like, you need to start broadcasting so the rest of us, like yesterday, Alicia called me and was like, who are you guys voting for in all these different districts and stuff like that? I'm like, we'll let you know later. Like, you know, but this the information that people want to have, right?
They certainly do. And as SHERLOC's Roundtable goes on, we actually have some national and internationally known guests. I don't want to give away the farm just yet, that will be on with us. And literally what we do is we rip from the headlines. We help you understand and interpret what's going on today. And then we have expert guests to come on the show and give us even more insight. So we've now empowered freedom as well, right? And then we empower technology. So we've built for so many others over the years. We said, let's build some stuff they can do, right? So SHERLOC Pay, right, powers the parallel economy. The world is different when you're not relying on the banking system.
So explain what SHERLOC Pay is.
So SHERLOC Pay is a digital wallet that allows you to work seamlessly through fiat currency, so cash, to cryptocurrency back and forth, and to gold and silver.
Nice.
So if you want to pay or you need to convert, it all happens instantly. Here's the kicker. We actually created a debit card to go with it. So we've got SHERLOC Pay and we've got the Give card.
Nice.
Right? So your card works just like a debit card. You can spend it. There are rewards, the whole thing.
So the gift card, though, the interest or whatever they charge you, that goes back to the foundation, which goes back to the kids.
Correct.
Right?
That's
Which
one
I
component.
love.
You have options as a card holder as to how you want that to go. It's almost like a cash back for all the right reasons.
Nice.
Right?
I love that.
So, I mean, that's SHERLOC Pay. We also built an alternative to Eventbrite because so many people were either getting deplatformed or having issues with Eventbrite. So we said, what do we do? Well, what happens if we actually solve the problem? Thus, we built Event Patriot, which allows you to do what you want to do with events and ticket sales without all the hassles from Eventbrite. Sometimes when you get too big, that's what happens. And, you know, we spent so much time on the architecture of TFN.media. This is the social media alternative that doesn't deplatform, keeps you safe, can't be hacked. That part in and of itself is amazing. I think with our architecture work on this, some of the stuff that's come out of it is equally exciting because you can do secure calling, both audio and video, one-to-one on the TFN.media platform, but people were asking us for a Zoom alternative. So within the TFN universe, we also have TFN Meeting. 100% encrypted, secure, peer-to-peer. You can do up to 50 people on that platform. Works just like Zoom. You want to do social media, use TFN Media. It looks and works just like Facebook.
So TFN Media replaces Zoom, Google, Facebook,
Twitter,
Instagram.
Yep. One shot Charlie, right? Because that's what we need to do.
Well, because we need to defund treason. Why are we using other platforms that are not for the American people?
As we say passionately in our presentation, stop feeding your enemy.
That's right.
All right. So there's a bit about SHERLOC. And, you know, we talked about the Give Foundation a minute ago in our origin story. But the Give Foundation really empowers a ministry and a mission.
Well, the lab really is our ministry and our mission.
It is. And the Give Foundation, empowering it. When we talk about our ministry, we wanted to share an excerpt from our letter. When we do these things like the Declaration, we do what the founders or our ancestors would do. We write a letter, right? And we express how we feel. The roots, we talked about the roots of the Give Foundation and how your influences earlier in your life really impact you later in life. And your transparency with people, like you've told this story on stage, and I'm proud of you for doing that. But, you know, for you, you always say, look, I needed this when I was younger. It's up on the screen, but can you talk about why?
I was raised in a really bad area. I mean, like so bad that I couldn't even go to the local high school that was 2 blocks from me because I would have been the only white female in the school. And they had metal detectors, you know, back then. The drug house was across the street. Pedophiles were down the block. They were always trying to get me into the place. Gangs all over the place, the 9th Street gang, the 8th Street gang, I don't know, whatever, all these different gangs and whatnot. And I had no safe haven. Like I had nowhere to go. My mom was working all the time, and I just needed like another adult to look at me and go, oh, I see you. And I mean, see you, not the face, but the, who am I as a person? You know, what makes me tick, right? What are my gifts? And be able to connect me with what I needed at that time. So instead of getting that, instead I landed in the hands of a pedophile. Pregnant at 16, baby at 17, and second child by 20, which is very typical. And all I kept thinking was, you know, that's not fair. And as an adult being, you know, a pretty white female, I keep thinking, if I'm struggling, I can only imagine how other people are struggling. So my heart goes out to the kids, because I was one of them that didn't have an opportunity, didn't have a place to go hang out. Yeah, there was a YMCA, but I wasn't into that kind of stuff. I was the smart, creative type of a kid. There was no place for the smart, creative kid to go hang out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it speaks volumes because when people look at us normally, they'll think I'm the one that had the tougher childhood. Mine came later in childhood, but life growing up, I was at the boys club.
Yeah.
Right. I was a junior Olympian as a swimmer. I had access to sports growing up in San Francisco. It was Golden Gate Park. Right. Life was pretty good. And you see that impact over time. And what happens when you transition into a situation that isn't so good, or when you transition out of a situation that isn't so good. So the Give Foundation empowers the lab, which is that bridge. It stops the opportunity desert. It stops the, like your testimony. How can we avoid having that happen to somebody else?
Well, it's having the kids come in.
Yeah.
It's who are you? You know, each kid got, you know, a personality profile. They did the 16 personalities, you know, we did the discs, we did even the 5 love languages. Like, I wanted to know if I want to show you that I love you, am I telling you, am I touching you? Am I spending time with you? Like, how do you want to be loved? And I just think that it's so important for us to really know who these kids are. Like, we're pushing them through a system that doesn't even work. Like, literally, one of the teenagers was like, they don't teach us what we need. Wow. So we're coming here to learn what it is that we need to learn. But I wanted, so my whole history was really bad. And they always say that, you know, you should become the person that you needed when you were a kid, or build that which you needed when you were a kid. So kind of like by default, like we built this because we needed as adults, when we were building our business, you know, we needed our community of people to find, you know, who can help us and do stuff with us. But, you know, I really needed it as a kid.
Yeah. You know, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what I love about the situation though? We're breaking the paradigms.
Yes.
We're breaking the way people look at other people. You know, we don't look like we should be together. You look like the person that should have gone through stuff. I look like the person that should have been like the princess and whatnot. And it's like, none of that is true.
Right.
You know, none of it.
Right.
So how do we start going, you know what? I want to see you for who you are, not for what you look like. Right. So when the kids can walk through the door, it's so funny. A couple of people said to me, oh, they're troubled kids. They have some issues. I had an issue with any one of the kids. They were fantastic. Always hugging me hello, hugging me goodbye. I mean, they were phenomenal. And I'm like, why did they all get labeled as trouble? Like, I didn't see any of that when they were here.
Because no one was able to see them.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, that's true, huh?
The old folks used to say, don't judge a book with just one look.
Oh, well, no, I didn't. So
it is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the ministry story is amazing. I you know, mission-wise, I mean, so nothing better than a graphic, right? So really this talks about the story at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
and our root, right? If we protect the genius and the person of youth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your personal life experience, if you would have been protected
Mm-hmm.
and someone would have seen you,
Mm-hmm.
it would have changed the trajectory of your early life.
I want to go back to the beginning of our presentation where we were talking about, the Give Foundation, how we wanted to wrap a business around a kid. There it is right there, protecting their genius and protecting their intellectual property and helping them to have the wealth instead of somebody else stealing it from them.
Exactly. If you do that part right, you create the environment for entrepreneurs to create economic opportunity.
That's right.
Let's be honest. Good economics, right? And abundance comes from that. That solves problems in struggling communities or in any household or anywhere.
Well, our first technology, Parable, was actually, no, it's not Parable that was built. It's the other one that was built by a college student.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That was so important. And we started a business with him,
mm-hmm.
right? Specifically because his intellectual property kept getting stolen. It got stolen by Google, right?
Right.
So he was like, you know what? I'd rather, start a company with you guys. And we did a 50-50, started a business just so he can build whatever he wanted to build and know that it was being protected.
Yeah. And those things count, right? Because then they spur innovation and creativity, which spurs economic. Everybody's like, oh, we need to create jobs. We need to create jobs. If you want to create meaningful jobs and opportunities for people, this is one of the ways to actually get it done.
Yeah, you have to empower entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And really that drives the lab, right? So it's community solutions, business solutions, and that changes billions of lives. And I'll bring back SHERLOC in here quickly, because for all of the great work that the Give Foundation does, it needs the market research, the competitive intelligence, and the technology to make all those things happen.
Well, this is our own nation state.
Yeah.
We get to protect our own people, do for our own people. This is why we have an entire organization.
Yeah.
Because we needed the different components. We needed the nonprofit, we needed the technology, and we needed the lab.
Yeah. So this is... We covered so much ground in such a short period of time. We seem to have a knack for that. We do pretty well. We want to give you guys a sneak peek at the future.
So
because it's exciting. And, doors open. So in the time we've been here, you guys can see there's a lot on the screen. In addition to the work with the City of Orlando Career Source and the Rescue Mission and Loud Ladies, FinFit Life, which is an insurance company, we do scholarship work in here for people who want to get their insurance license, and they're able to train and do everything that they need to do. They get an opportunity to create their own business, which Seneca, one of our young people who's gone through the program, is actively doing right now.
So can I talk about Seneca?
Please, go ahead.
Okay. So when Seneca first came, we were like, I don't know if this kid's ever going to make it. And then I realized he was bored and he was super, super smart. And he was also very motivated by money, right? So when we started talking about insurance and the vehicles and making money, he's like, what? What are you doing? And he was like, I want a part of that. And we're like, great. So we're going to support you. So he got to study and do things while he was at work. Like he got paid on the job to study. And he's got himself several different wonderful mentors now. Huh?
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. So,
and that actually spurred the Keller Williams K-Score program that we'll be launching here soon, where people who have an interest in a career in real estate can study free of charge for their license.
Love that.
And they get insight from professionals who do it every day, which, how we learn. Book learning is one thing, but real world experience and engaging with people who do it every day is something completely different.
So Seneca will be taking that after he passes his insurance license. Because he wasn't doing real estate.
Seneca is really at the core of the Give Foundation and Lab model, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So you guys can see that all powers and provides the foundation for the Lab Orlando. Since we've done that, we've had incredible relationships develop. And this is just a snapshot of it, the three that you see above. The County Citizens Defending Freedom, CCDF USA, the Liberty Pastures Movement based out of Oklahoma City, with a satellite down here in Florida, and KCG, our dear friend Steve. These relationships and telling the story that people are hearing today and helping them understand our vision for larger labs in other communities that are really, like you said, nation states, right? So there's a spiritual core, and then there's the lab for business and economic development, and then there are businesses within that ecosystem. And it builds and functions on its own. We've even added a food component to it, where we're growing food. And people are coming in and learning. We did that as a pilot during the summer program. One of our young people, Jawan, is a botanist, Didn't know it.
So when I interviewed John,
Yeah.
he said one. I asked him, "What do you want to do?" One word came out of his mouth, and then the word was botany. And I said, "Botany." It was so interesting.
He started our hydroponic tower, and now we've got veggies that we need to go eat.
So I walked up to it. I just pulled
Yeah.
the lettuce off and whatnot, and we have the tomato plants and a whole bunch of other things that he planted.
Yeah. So these relationships, combined with the work that we've done and we've shared with you in the State of the State today, leads to the expansion of the lab. And we've actually talked with a number of different markets for people who are like, you know what, I need something. I really believe that it's this. So we've got some travel in our near future, but also. So we can't officially announce yet, but in the next few days, through just incredible blessings, we will announce the next location for the lab. And it's huge.
2 locations.
Oh, 2 locations. That's right. We will be announcing the next 2 locations for labs in the United States. You notice we just put the map up, so you know it's going to be in the U.S. Right. We just can't tell you quite where. I was going to put a giant question mark in there, but I didn't want to do it. So new labs is part of the future. Through those relationships, we've now been able to do even more.
Well, when people hear about what we're doing, they're like, oh my gosh, my community needs that. Oh, it's super simple to open one. It's not a big deal, you know?
Yeah. Also part of the future, deeper research. So, you know, with the work that SHERLOC does, things are brought to you when you're a conduit for things to get done, including the truth coming out. And we've had the opportunity to cover, and we're moving through this expose on the U.S. government, in particular the DOJ, the FBI, the SEC, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, in a bellwether cryptocurrency case against a gentleman named Randall Crater, and looking at thousands of pages of evidence and talking to whistleblowers. The government will do whatever it takes for power and for money. In essence, the CFTC raised hundreds of millions of dollars for their department from Congress based on a lie. This case should have never been a case.
Well, the cases before that enabled them to make this case a case when it wasn't really a case, warrant cases.
Right.
Like they were like literally fudging their way through cases to get what they needed, the story together, so that they can, you know, convict Randall so they can go do the things that they're doing to us right now.
Yeah, so exposing that corruption, collusion, and conspiracy is part of the future of deeper research. The IRS is going to be a future one. They've hired a bunch, or they're going to hire a number of new agents. And, you know, there's some other stuff going on around the counting of the electoral votes, where they actually want to change the legislation. All of these things need to be talked about in a level of detail, but then put in such a way that people can understand. And that's a huge component moving forward for us. All the data that we receive from the labs, putting that together and helping people who want to solve problems in their community is part of a huge future for us.
So when I look at what happened with Randall, right, we're next.
Yep.
Like if we don't protect and support and empower Randall to have a voice and say this is not right, and you know, then they're going to come after the next technology companies like us.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, they're legislating their way into power, aren't they?
Yes, they are. That's really a prevailing theme in this, is they're legislating their way to power. It's not right. So, I mean, that's part of the future too.
But you know what? But the lab, for me, I was at a meeting, a big meeting, and somebody stood up because it was a governmental figure talking. And he said, you know, we need a meeting house. And I thought, you know what? We do need a meeting house. We need a place where we can go, you know what, this guy over here, one of the politicians and what they're doing, you know, that they're trying to push something through. Like, we need to be able to communicate with each other about what's happening in our community. So it's really important for us to take this type of information and wake people up, because people aren't aware of what's going on. And it's going to impact them.
It is.
It's really going to pick. Yeah.
So, with all of that said, we need your help.
Yeah, we do.
We do. And your support.
Yeah. And,
you know, we can't say it enough. You guys can see the work that we've done. And there's so much more to do. So you're probably asking, great, RC Juliana, what can I do? It's actually pretty simple. You can support us with a contribution to the Give Foundation. As you saw a minute ago, there's a ton of work in the future.
So the Give Foundation supports our ability to do all the writing that we're doing?
Correct.
Right.
It allows us to do the writing that we're doing. It allows us to continue to push programs and initiatives forward through the lab as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So a contribution to the Give Foundation is the best way when you ask what you can do. And there are actually a couple of ways you can do that. You can go to our site, artofthegive.org. You can scan that QR code if you've got the time. You'll see the opportunity to donate there. You'll also see more information about everything that we're doing and our TV interviews and testimonials and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're super technically savvy, you can also contribute to the Give Foundation with crypto. And all donations are tax deductible.
Nice.
So, guys, with that, we thank you so much for spending time with us, getting the state of the state. If we can help you with anything, you need more information, you'd like to contact us, or you'd like to contribute, you can go to artofthegive.org. And we deeply appreciate you and whatever you do.
And I deeply appreciate you.
And I deeply appreciate you.
That's awesome.
It is.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon.